Hello there and welcome. I'm Reverend Nhien, founder of Evolving Enneagram. If you've been seeking a compassion-based, contemplative approach to Enneagram-informed transformation, you are in the right place. This is where contemplation meets the Enneagram. So we are in week 3 of a 12-week Sunday Talk series on the theme 9 Points of Light. Opening with the body center on the Enneagram, last week I explored point 8, and today's talk is on Enneagram 9, grounding in a harmonizing love. So I'll take today's talk in just 2 points. First, I'll take a look at the essence quality, which I will call harmonizing love at point 9, and how the type, divorced of its essence, attempts to mimic this quality. And of course, I'll apply that to all of us as well. And then second, I'll guide you through a brief contemplative journey to sense into this harmonizing love that is present in, through, and as every one of us. We'll begin with teaching here in part 1, and then we'll go into practice in part 2. But first, I'm going to take you back to school with me all the way to my seminary days. I am a unity minister, and that is part of the New Thought movement. And this is different from New Age, and that's a whole nother conversation. But I just want to say that to start and ask you the question, as my professor might, what is love? What is love? Just take a moment. You can pause the video to consider your definitions of, the first few things that pop up in your head. So then, is love a feeling? Right? Is it a verb? Some people's like, love is a verb. It's an action, right? Just some questions to consider. No right or wrong answers here. But I think it's important for you to first consider how you hold this term, because it's a pretty loaded term in our culture. And for me, I have believed that love is like both those things at points in my life. I was like, yeah, I used the term to refer to love as a feeling. I refer to love as a verb in the sense of like, well, if you're not showing up, right, in a loving way, then it seems pointless or even indulgent that I have this feeling of love, but I'm not showing up in loving ways in the way I live, right? But more and more, as I engage this contemplative journey, I have come to really sense into this state of like love as being, love as my nature. And if anything, and this kind of goes back to seminary here, if anything, love, or at least like divine love, right, versus like human love, for me is like a field, right? And in that, love is in its ultimate sense, not the way I use it every day. I might say, I love this, I love chocolate, or I don't love cheese, or whatever that is, right? But when I talk about this from a spiritual point of view, I believe that love is indeed universal. It doesn't have favorites. And also that love is a field. So when I first learned in Unity Seminary that in the Unity movement, love was analogized to this gravitational field, I thought, that kind of really shifted my perspective on love, like a gravitational force that binds everything and everyone together. If you think about even like romantic love, there's this like drawing in, this is desire for union, right? And so seeing love almost as this force that holds and binds everything together made a lot of sense to me. So I'll share, just for your consideration, quotes from different Unity teachers. One is the co-founder of the Unity movement, Charles Fillmore, and he defined love in his book, The Revealing Word, a Dictionary of Metaphysical Terms, in this way. He wrote, love is the pure essence of being that binds together the whole human family. Of all the attributes of God, love is undoubtedly the most beautiful. In divine mind, love is the power that joins and binds in divine harmony. the universe, and everything in it, the great harmonizing principle. And then Unity author Winifred Wilkinson Hausman, whom I studied quite a bit in those early years, also wrote, love is the harmonizing, healing, unifying, attracting power in the universe. In nature, it works as gravity. In divine mind, it is the idea of universal harmony and unity, that which binds together the whole of God's creation into one harmonious unit, so that even the tiniest movement of a person's finger displaces atoms out in space. And the thoughts and feelings of our civilization combine to form a race consciousness which determines the future of all humankind. It's really, really interesting that here in Unity, this is what I was taught as foundational within our Unity movement in terms of like the definition of love. And then we turn to the Enneagram world, and lo and behold, let's go to what Hamid Ali, founder of the Diamond Heart School, teaches on the point or the key to awakening for type 9s, but to the key for all of us to access like the essence quality at point 9, right? And he calls this key boundless love. And listen to his definition. And he brings in, as we've been discussing, how the type, right? So last week we heard about how the type 8 offers a mimicry of the true strength that is the essence of 8. Similarly, the type 9, personality 9, offers a mimicry of this essential quality of boundless love. So he writes, 9s want to bring peace by avoiding conflict and difficulty. The quality of divine love makes it possible to bring peace, meaning, and harmony. Again, the word harmony, you'll hear that a lot, but only by confronting the difficulty. It is not the quality that is needed in actually confronting and grappling with the conflicts and difficulties. For this, we need essential strength and will, along with essential intelligence and compassion. However, the quality of divine love gives us a basic sense of trust, a feeling of being held by a benevolent presence that comforts and soothes. It is actually what is needed on the spiritual path at times of difficult transitions, such as big losses or fragmentation. These are often times of trial, fear, or challenge. Boundless love is what allows the seeker to feel trusting enough to deal with the situation and to move on to other as yet unknown dimensions. It can work similarly in dealing with difficulties of the world and of our ongoing life as well. It grants us trust and ease, which makes it possible for us to harness other essential qualities that ensure that the mediation or peacemaking is real and effective. All body types have this issue, wanting to impact the world without being impacted by it, right? And 9s want to bring more peace to the world, but they tend to do it or attempt to do it not by actually facing or embracing conflict or discord, but most typically, and again, what we're talking about when fixated, by withdrawing from it to feel the closest thing to it, the mimicry of peace and harmony and oneness, which is, what's the mimicry of that? Oneness, to feel undisturbed, to feel blissful, right? But 9s in personality, we know, are not truly peaceful. They're actually often just checked out in a number of ways, numbing out in whatever way, or that diffuse attention is a way So like that's a way, kind of, that's a spacing out kind of quality, that diffuse attention, that not landing. So let's take a moment. It's not just about type nines, but all of you take a moment to check in. And so ask yourself a few questions. Consider your relationship to peace or harmony on the one hand, and conflict. Again, pause this video if you need some time. Have another question though. Do you avoid conflict? Right? It's probably situational. Some people more strongly avoid it than others, right? Do you withdraw in the midst of outer conflict, or do you meet fire with fire? I'm a little bit of the fire with fire. Depends on the situation. So have you tapped into a love, like this divine love we're talking about, that can hold those polarities so that somehow that doesn't seem to be on the one hand, here's my piece over here, like nines withdrawing to this their piece, and here's the conflict over here, right? That somehow we open to a loving consciousness we can, that can hold how those belong together, right? Like that they're not there isn't such a strong duality between the two. And actually, in the Centering Prayer Summit that I presented at, hosted by Closer Than Breath earlier this year, I spoke on the topic of the contemplative heart of unity. And I spoke directly to this practice of centering prayer and also of welcoming prayer that we practice here in Evolving Enneagram. Primarily, the idea that these practices, and in particular, I would say, like centering prayer, helps us to open our awareness. So we're not like, here's one, here's another. It kind of creates this non-dual, more unitive awareness that can hold what seem to be opposites in the worldly sense. So consider that in type nines, there's this belief that somehow conflict, there's a duality in there, believing that conflict is over here and peace is over here. It's not integrated. So it's not actually like embodied in the wholeness of love, right? So the ego doesn't know how to hold that. The personality doesn't know how to hold that. And also, as a reminder, contemplation, which often, like, it does mean taking time apart from our routines and our habits, et cetera, and our habitual thinking. But it doesn't, in essence, at least from my perspective, mean turning away. So it's not just merely like turning away from noise, from people to stay. It's not about staying unaffected for sure. It's not about turning away from war and conflict and strife out there to only focus your attention somehow on what you see as peaceful or positive. Rather, contemplation is about turning away from the noise in order to turn toward the divine, toward truth, toward greater presence. Russ Hudson, he refers to it as grounded presence. And also John Lukovich refers to this essence quality as harmony. I think it's often easier, more accessible than some of Hamid Ali's work to think of it in either of these terms. So let's talk about grounded presence and harmony. Remembering again, so nine sits at the center of the triad of the body-based types. And as Russ teaches, nine is actually about the gift of landing, of relaxing, of letting go into being. What I think we all really kind of aim at in our meditative or contemplative practice. It's about realizing we're already here. We're already home. I'm sure if you're a nine, you're like, oh, most nines I know love home, right? So you're happy to have this symbolize the journey because home is usually comfortable, right? But what if home is filled with conflict right now? Say our earth home. What if home is filled with diverse views? What if home is feeling really polarized, right? Instead of landing in presence, nines orbit this life the conflict that's like inside them, outside them, wherever it is. And it's like, nope, I'm okay. I'm just going to kind of disconnect, keep my head in the clouds, only good vibes, people, or I'll just numb out. And so, in that, nines are attempting to mimic a quality that is actually accessible already, right here at home in our being. It can look like presence on the outside, and we know this. We're onto you nines, that you're present without content. You know, like you could look present, but you're checked out. We know. Okay. And deep down in your heart, you know. And so that's the more important thing, which is that when you know the difference, when you're checked out, no wonder um, beneath the surface is this underlying despair. Actually, people only seem to like equate like deep sadness to the four, but nines actually have this like listlessness inside, this almost despondency, this despair that underlies it, of like that's the piece of it. It doesn't matter anyway. It doesn't matter. And that's partly because it's like, what's the point if you're not even really able to be here, right? So it's actually that disconnect that that you do to try to keep the peace that can lead to depression and just, yeah, overall shutting down, and a host of other problems that relate to that, you know, not taking care of yourself. uh, so I want to share my description of the type 9 as it goes from a fixated perspective to a more soulful presence in the world. This is from the Enneagram of the Soul, pages 26 to 27. Fixated nines can tend to make idols of comfort, peace, and harmony, even as they fall into a deeper and deeper sleep around their own inner truths, feelings, or desires. This can lead to sporadic outbursts of anger as nines unconsciously rebel against their own passivity and lack of caring for the self. So, as nines begin to wake up, they recognize that their inner worlds do matter and begin to courageously express their uniqueness, even when it might result in discomfort or disharmony. Recognizing their own significance, they naturally become more alive and engaged in life. They become more self-possessed and proactive in asserting themselves. Soulful nines learn to prioritize their personal goals and dreams and are even willing to brave the spotlight as needed to express their truth. They feel more substantial, exercise their innate power, and relish their sense of autonomy. Centered in their wholeness, nines are a powerful force of nature and bring their gift of seeing and embracing all perspectives, including their own. With that, I'd like to move to part 2. Coming home to love. This love that is universal, that naturally harmonizes all life. Sure, it is at core an inner practice of presence. But what I found is the ego or the personality sets up a lot of barriers. And some of those barriers start in the external world a bit, you know, so it's sort of like we have to give ourselves permission to even go there. And so this section is about that part of it, that part of like how we resist what is, how we resist beingness. So coming home to love, we can ground in essential harmonizing boundless and divine love by first, I'm going to go through all the numbers now, starting with the body types. First, for the 8, recognizing that when divine love wins, there are no losers. Right? This is another version of the us versus them. But when love wins, there are no losers. This is boundless love. This is universal love. This is love without an enemy. For the 9, recognizing that divine love embraces and harmonizes worldly discord. So remembering that love doesn't move away from that discord. It doesn't separate itself from it. It is a force within you that is capable of harmonizing it, even if your brain is like, this is this is irreconcilable, right? From the worldly standpoint. And then the one, recognizing that divine love accepts what is not the same thing as being resigned to it. By that, I mean that for the one, there is this implicit belief that if I accept what is, first of all, no, I don't accept it. That's the point in the one. But okay, well, love, my being as love accepts what is, and that doesn't mean I'm resigned to it. And the paradox of accepting what is, being with what is in this embrace actually empowers you to do something skillful about it, but not from a place of shoulding or othering. But there is an implied belief that I can't accept it, because if I accept it, I'll be resigned to it. Okay, moving into the heart types. So again, grounding in essential, harmonizing, boundless, divine love may mean that to start at point 2, you need to recognize that divine love doesn't need anything from you. Let's take a moment to process that. That love doesn't need anything from you. For the 3, recognize that accepting you are beloved of the divine and enough doesn't mean you will stagnate. I know I have personally been afraid of, my God, if I accept who I am, then I will never grow. And then if I don't grow, everything's going to hell, like, so, but like to the contrary, it's like love promotes growth and thriving, right? But it comes from a different place than that place of lack. And so too often we won't accept this moment of enoughness and worthiness because of that fear. So being in that enoughness now, present in your being, right, requires letting go of that fear that you'll stagnate. So for the 4, recognize that in divine love, everyone is special and no one is special. Just take that in. The head types. Again, grounding in essential, harmonizing, boundless, or divine love may mean that to start, you, at point 5, recognize that divine love is inexhaustible. So your being in that, it is a fount. It is an infinity, it can't be wasted or spent. And so you can sit in like that abundance. For the 6, recognize that divine love does not need to be understood before it can be experienced. Right? The 6's brain is like, to be safe, I have to understand it first. And so there is a piece of like allowing this just to be and to be in it, right? To allow it. And then 7, recognize that divine love is available only in the present moment. Let's practice grounded presence, coming home to this harmonizing love. One of Goethe's principal students, Jean de Salzman, I think is how you pronounce it, observed that in the beginning, sensation is almost the only instrument of knowledge, meaning that for our self-awareness, in the beginning, just having presence in our body can be like the first way that we really come into presence, like to be aware of our sensations. And it's the easiest portal into presence because the body is always anchored in the present moment. So that's why our 3-centered practice that we've been doing this term is, it starts with sensation, then goes to the heart, feelings, and then goes to thoughts, the thinking center. So, and grounding, just as a side note, helps people who are type 9s from using their centering prayer practice as yet another way that they check out, right? So you want to ground. So with that, I invite you to take this opportunity, if it's safe to do so, to close your eyes, get situated in a posture that's comfortable for you, that is alert. Oftentimes a straight spine helps, but dropping your shoulders so you're not stiff, softening your jaw. I invite you to begin by following your breath. And then I'm going to invite you to actually breathe into your belly, and specifically into this area we call the lower dantian, which is about 3 fingers below the belly button. You place your 3 fingers together and go down. And visualize your breath as if it's going right through that belly center there, right down there. Notice how sensation has an immediacy to it. Right here and now you might experience like warmth and heat. This powerful support system that is your energetic body. And this time, rather than notice the aliveness like we did with the 8, notice how the sensation helps you to land, feel solid, substantial. And there can be a dropping away of like distraction or agitation. Your sensation here becomes the doorway to the living moment. It's the feeling of coming home. And now imagine your hips are creating a bowl, and the bowl is filling with a liquid. And as this bowl fills with liquid, imagine that point in the middle of the bowl, this point of presence in the middle of your belly. Almost like the sense of where you're looking from, where your seat is, where your center is, drops down there. You drop into the simple relaxation of just being here. This is it. You're self-remembering. You're remembering to be here now. You're remembering, I am. And there's this sense of like fullness, like you are fully inhabiting yourself. And then I invite you to bring awareness, just gently allow it to rise up into your heart space. Notice how when you're already grounded in the belly center, there's a little more space for the heart. Maybe even a little bit more capacity to pay attention. So you can bring like presence and attentiveness. Attention is a form of love that says that you matter. Your heart matters. What you want matters. It's included in the whole. Just sense into that. And then I invite you to bring your awareness up into your head center. You know that the fixation in the head center for the 9 is indolence, which Russ Hudson calls ruminating. Just rolling around kind of ideas, and it's kind of a laziness of attention. But what happens when we have this presence seated, right, in our belly, and then we bring it into the heart, and there's the heart online, and then we bring it up. We might even glimpse the holy idea of holy love. The sun shines on everyone equally. Everyone. And so I invite you to take this opportunity to give thanks, feel some gratitude for yourself for taking this time to be part of our collective awakening, to be connected to your own being, and to be a part of realizing universal or boundless love, a love that harmonizes, a love that is grounded, embodied, not some head in the clouds spiritual idea of love. And so I invite you to begin to open your eyes. Indeed, a type 9 in touch with their essential self naturally radiates a sense of calm and unity. And we have that at the point 9 in all of us. So imagine a serene lake on a still day. There's the sense of that, right? A sense of equilibrium where everything is in its rightful place, everything held together, bound together. And this harmony is not just an absence of conflict, but a positive and vibrant sense of alignment with life, with everything. The feeling of being at home and being connected and part of the fabric of this embodied existence. Without a sense of this harmonizing love, we all know too well what the world looks like. The unity of the world feels broken in a way that feels overwhelming, in a way that causes many of us to take the 9 stance of, I can't face this, I'll chill out instead. But imagine a world in which each and every one of us have brought forward this harmonizing love at the essence of our being. Imagine a world in which we are grounded in universal, boundless love. The knowing of that at our being, at our core, a love that does admit differences and somehow holds it all together. 9s, you indeed have a head start here. So, because it's your home base, this is your essence, boundless love. Love as harmony, harmony that is truly inclusive and multifaceted and universal. So we need you here. We need you. We need your wakefulness. We need your unique presence, 9s. And of course, in all people, but a special reminder to the 9s who tend to self-forget. Thank you for joining me, everyone. Next week, we'll do point 1. Namaste.